Hello and welcome to the Bonus XP podcast. I'm your host Luke Morgan, and joining me as always are my bearded boys Conan
Evening.
and Greiner.
Hello.
If you're new to this podcast, which I no doubt that you are, what we do is every fortnight we sit down, gather around the internet campfire, and each bring forward a news item or topic from the gaming world that we deem worthy of discussion. Before we get to that though, we begin how we usually start our podcast, and that is by asking someone on the pod what they have been playing. And I imagine this fortnight we've all been playing the same game. Griner. Oh,
Do you want to tell us about Horizon first?
then? Well, actually, yes, I'll talk about mine first. Obviously, we've been all playing that game about that famous ring, which is what I've been playing this fortnight, as I've been playing WWE 2K22.
That ring.
The wrestling ring, yes. So, obviously, this game came out last week, as we all know. I've been knee deep in that, creating my wrestlers. I haven't created you guys yet. I really need to do that, make us a trio that just take over the wrestling world, you know? But
Just like in real life.
me and my son have been playing that game a lot, and yeah, no, it's really good. So I'm a wrestling fan. I've been a fan of the wrestling game since I was a kid. Um, this is like an annual thing that comes out every year, usually around November every year. So 2 years ago, 2K20 came out, and it was awful. Like,
I remember.
You've seen the screenshots of it because it was woeful.
it was famously bad. The entry before that, 2K19, I played probably more than any entry in the last 10 years. I thought it was really great. Was super hyped for 2K20. And it came out and it was abysmal. It was a new developer taking over after the previous people had been in charge of it for 20 years, and disaster. As in, I believe my total playtime when I look back at it is 1 hour and 5 minutes, and then I returned it, and I never looked back, never played it again. Didn't want to give it the time of day. They took a year off for the first time ever in the series and spent extra time working on this one, getting everything sorted. There was a couple of delays. It's obviously coming out different time of the year than it usually does. It came out in March. But they nailed it. It's better than the last few entries. They redesigned the gameplay. They redesigned some of the stuff like camera angles and everything. It makes it more feel a bit more immersive, how the actual show is presented and everything like that. But gameplay feels great. It feels a lot more sort of arcadey, but also like things feel heavier, like punches, kicks. They feel like you're doing damage as opposed to, you're just pressing buttons and watching people do moves or anything like that.
Now that is interesting because in real wrestling there is no hits or damage, so
Exactly.
so they're not really very going realistic in this, are they?
They're going for realism, as as people perceive it when they're kids, or
fantasy
fans
realism.
where it's still real to them. But it is really enjoyable to play. It's always my favorite thing. As soon as I get the game, I go into character creator. I spend 4 hours in there creating my character that looks exactly like me, down to the 8-pack and all. And then I create my entrance, create my move set. It's great. But this time it's been extra fun because my son's as much as a wrestling fan as I am, and sitting him there watching him create his
terrible
character.
thing you've done. That's a terrible thing you've done.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yes, but he's created so many characters. There's a lot of Spider-Men in my character creator. He's also learned how to go into the community creations and just download pretty much every comic book character. So my book is full of created comic book characters now. But yeah, it's fun, and we had a couple of tag matches and stuff, and a lot of fun. So I've been playing that. I finished.
Sorry, I just want to say the thing I'd heard about this wrestling game is that it felt like the brief to the studio was, we don't want to see any GIFs on Twitter, and so everything feels very safe. Would you agree that that's the case, or you?
That's absolutely. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking, as in it's pretty much getting so much praise because it's not the disaster that it was last year.
Yep.
If this had come out the year after 2K19, people would be like, yeah, that's another good entry. But after how bad the last one was, they're like, wow, they knocked it out of the park. This is great. And
It's a good That's a good marketing
it
strategy.
really is. Call of Duty should just bad game, good
Yeah,
game, bad
it's
game,
like
good game.
new
So
Coke and normal Coke. You just bring back the original formula and
Yeah.
nail it every time.
exactly. But the story mode that they do in this is basically you play through Rey Mysterio, who's a famous legend luchador wrestler, and you play through career highlights of his, which is pretty fun to just see classic matches from the 90s and 2000s and the stuff I grew up watching and recreating moments in those matches that they intercut with real life footage. Like you'll do a move and then it just cuts to the real life footage of that and then translates back into the gameplay of you finishing the move. It's pretty cool. So yeah, but that's what I've been playing. I finished Horizon. I'm not sure if I said that on the last one. It's been
Been a
I think
while
I was
since we
near
last
the end.
recorded. Yeah, you
But
are.
I did finish Horizon. I'm very keen for the next one on that and how that ended and all the story going on with that. But great game of the year, some people would say. But
No one would say.
Conan, what have you been playing?
Well, unsurprisingly, I've played the game that literally the rest of the world is playing, except for you. I got a couple of days to play Elden Ring, and it was dope. So I've invested, I think it's like 9 or 10 hours, so it's not much, but I
Yep.
don't I don't spend any time in character creation because I don't want to be like 4 hours in and go, wow, what a cool character. I'll play this tomorrow now because I spent all my game time today on building this character I'm going to put in a cape and a helmet and never look
Yeah.
at.
Yep. Yeah.
So I got a cool preset, slightly tweaked it, gave him the hair and the beard I've always wanted but can never pull off, and face tats that I'm also too scared to get, and that's it. But it's an awesome game. It's like I don't know. It's kind of a moot point to talk about how good it is because that's what everyone's talking
Well,
about currently.
No, let's gush. Let's gush until Luke says he hates it.
no, gush. Like I do want to hear. So Conan, for you, obviously you're a FromSoft fan.
Loyalist, yes. I played Tenchu Z on the 360. I was a defender from day one. So
Exactly. So where at the moment, obviously early days, being 10 hours
yep.
into a FromSoft game, where is this sitting with you? Because you obviously liked Sekiro as well. Where does this
Yeah.
sit with you, combat wise, and their entry into an open world? How does that translate for you as opposed to previous ones?
Yeah, so it's interesting coming at it because all the talk leading up to it was very much talking about how this game sort of rebuilt the wheel and was kind of a revolution towards the open world formula. And in a lot of ways, I can see why they're saying that, especially in the state that sort of open world games are in. But at the same time, playing this, I was also like, I was just kind of like, oh, this is essentially Dark Souls but open world. And so it's not anything crazy new for me. And I do think that the reason why it's so new is because this is the first, it's open world and people are coming at it as the first FromSoft game. And so
Mm.
for a lot of people playing it or sort of accessing it, this is the whole new world for them. Whereas being a loyalist and a fan of all the stuff they've done, except Demon Souls because I've never played it, it's like this very much is Dark Souls just in an open world. It feels the same. It's got the same sort of build models. It's got the exact same combat style. It's kind of, it doesn't really incorporate the stealth system as efficiently as it did in Sekiro, but it has added elements of all of them. But it's not this doesn't have the speed of Bloodborne. It doesn't have the parries of Sekiro. It's very much the Dark Souls formula, which is great. Like I love that franchise. So it's really just another interesting Souls game, which I'm always keen for. I've wanted Dark Souls 4 as soon as I finished Dark Souls 3, and this is the best Dark Souls 4 I could hope for.
True. So, Griner, do you think that sounds fair, or do you feel like once Conan gets a bit more deep, he'll sort of understand what this does differently, as opposed to?
I do think you will. It did take me a little bit to get into it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is just like Dark Souls 4, but this is cool. Like I'm not unhappy, but guys, I think I have a serious problem. Like I'm playing this game like it's a second job. I can't stop thinking about it. I've put 60 hours into this game.
Jeez.
I'm like not even at the end game yet. I've never this game just constantly blows me away. I'm constantly going to new areas and just seeing things I've never seen before.
Can you
And
give me some examples? Because I want to know what's revolutionizing your mind.
But don't spoil it, obviously, because
yeah, this makes it really hard. But I guess
Yeah.
the thing about other FromSoft games is I feel like they have some of the best enemy design in the business and some of the best boss design in the business. And so for me, comparing it to a game like Breath of the Wild, that this game gets a lot of comparison to, this game is purely about exploration, in my opinion. And the thing that gets tiring about Breath of the Wild is the exploration ends in like 2 or 3 different situations. It ends at a shrine, which is fine. Like, I'm not mad about getting to a shrine, but I've also, there's 110 shrines to do. It's not the first shrine I've ever seen. It's a shrine. It leads to a Korok seed, which I could care less about, or it leads to like a boss in the world, which is either going to be one of the big a Hinox or one of the stone golem things.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all the exploration will do for you. And like, look, I love that game, one of my favorite games of all time. But this game, like, I want to tell you about the bosses I've fought. They're so freaking weird. I want to tell you about the weird ass locations I've been to and the strange things I've seen there. Like, I don't know what drugs or what satanic rituals FromSoft does to generate these enemies, but there's some super creepy, scary stuff out there. This is the funniest FromSoft game that they've made. Like, there's some genuinely funny moments. Just every bit of exploration leads me to something I've never seen before, and I'm just constantly blown away by it. I guess that's the thing for me. And like, there's rewards. Like this, I've got a character packed to the brim full of weapons that I'm just going to totally ignore. But I'm never mad when I get one. Like, I'm never mad when I get a weapon at the end of a dungeon, or a piece of armor that I'm not going to wear, or an ash of war that I'm never going to equip. I still want to collect all that stuff because, maybe I'll respec that stuff and do that down the line. But I just want to talk about the enemies I've fought and the bosses I've fought and stuff. But I don't want to spoil anything either, because that is part of the fun of this game.
Yeah, Luke, how far are you into it, or have you not even touched it?
So, I just wanted to touch on first. I really do like this whole revisionist thing that Elden Ring might do and expose Breath of the Wild as not being as great as it is. I really enjoy that. Maybe Horizon will actually be renamed Game of the Year for 2017. But, so I have put 2 hours into Elden Ring.
Oof.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I am keen to
an
play
hour and
more.
50 of that was character creation, right?
It was 100% an hour of character creation. I created the coolest looking dude, like cool beard, cool long hair, tied back a bit shaggy, Geralt, Witcher like.
Good style.
One like white eye and the other one with an eye patch. Oh, like super cool. And then I scrapped that. I was like, you know what? I could make Beric Dondarrion from Game of Thrones. I was like, this is cool. So I made him. And
That's who my guy looks
You
like.
can get a flaming sword too. Like, you can totally get a flaming sword buff.
Assumed I could. So I was like, I'm going with Beric Dondarrion with this. So at the last minute I scrapped it. I got into the open world, not deep into the open world, obviously, in an hour. The dude on the horse at the very start messed me up bad.
Absolutely he teaches you an important lesson. You do not have to fight anything in the open world. You can get around it.
Yeah, it took me a couple of goes, and then I realized that, and I diverted off another path. I've got the mount, so I've gotten to the first campfire or whatever it is when I rested, and then lady came, sat down, and gave me a horse. I do really like the mount in this game. Like, it feels great to ride.
Good. Yeah.
Which I was surprised about. Like, I know you had said, Greiner, that it felt really good. I just didn't expect it to feel good for some reason.
Every horse should have a double jump.
It's just so smooth. Yeah,
that's the thing, because it ignores the laws of physics, and that's something that other games try to stick to the dot, and maybe why they fail.
The Red Dead horses in comparison, and everything is slow and cumbersome. Whereas in this, you just darting back and forth for every boss fight. It's so nice.
Yeah.
You can get anywhere quickly, and in a game like this, you need that, right? Because it's so big, and there's so many little nooks you want to reach. You don't want to be like, okay, it's going to take me a literal 4 minutes to ride this 4 minutes. It's like, no, I'm just going to spam B and get there really quickly. And it's like, there, I'm done.
Exactly.
It's nice.
So I really can't speak to it much. I think I'm really keen to play it. Greiner, how's your experience been so far? Like, are you playing by yourself, or are you join in other people's games or?
I have I've invaded people because there's a quest to do it. I've been invaded a few times. The nice thing about this game is you only get invaded when you have co-op partners. So it just doesn't happen randomly like it used to in the old Dark Souls games. I mean, they've always had a way to opt out. So yeah, I've done a bit of multiplayer that way. I've definitely summoned people to help with boss fights. You guys will get there, but have you guys got the spirit bell that lets you summon spirits?
Yeah, I fought the first main boss.
Did you get the bell that lets you summon spirits though?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, I got that at the church. Yeah,
it's very missable. But it's very worth having because it's very, very good. Anyway, I have a spirit summon it's generally better than a player. So I usually skip the players.
Is it the dog? Is it the dog?
No, you'll get there.
He's the dog wrecks face.
He's a very handsome fellow. The dogs are cool though. Jellyfish is cool.
I really do want to talk at length about this actually.
We will have.
Have you been down any wells, Conan?
There's wells?
No, okay.
But I fought spirit bears.
There's such a... Oh, you're probably pretty close to where the well it was then, but there's just...
Wait, do you mean the jails?
No.
No. Okay.
You go down a very long elevator. No.
So, I killed
this game.
I killed what I thought was a boss because it had a big health bar. It just was a knight.
No, that's the tutorial boss. But there's 120 bosses in this game. I think people have worked out. 80 of which are unique. So sometimes you fight, the same model of boss,
enemy type.
Yeah. But I love just getting into a dungeon and fighting my way through and fighting the boss at the end. Yeah, it's so good.
Because there's tiers, right? You've got
there's plenty of tiers.
Bosses in dungeons that are pretty clear, pretty easy, or not easy, but comparatively, you try a couple times and you sort of do it.
Have you guys been in any catacombs?
Yeah.
So there's catacombs everywhere, and they always have a boss at the end, and that's like one of your low tier bosses. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's obviously the main bosses. Like as you progress through the castle, you come across one almost straight away. And then
there's like 2 tiers above that too.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That first guy above that first guy, anyway.
Yeah. Right on.
Margit.
So yeah, here's the thing. I'll be honest. I've finished the Souls games. I haven't finished Dark Souls 2, nor Demon Souls. I haven't finished those, but Platinum Bloodborne. I will say pretty much my exclusive experience with Bloodborne was with somebody helping me. It was very much like my friend guiding me the whole game. It was like, show me where to go, show me who to fight.
That's totally fine though, because that's exactly how I played the first Dark Souls, and that's how I got into it and actually appreciated the game. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have enjoyed it.
And I think one of the joys of these games is there is a sense of community around helping other players and looking stuff up and talking to your friends about how they got through this thing. And I'm totally fine with looking stuff up here and there. I try not to spoil too much stuff for myself, but it's just I don't know. That's part of the community.
And that's the thing. It was with Bloodborne, it was pretty much every boss I had help on. It was just exploring the area. This guy was just showing me through. Shout out to Macca. But he just ran through, was okay, go down there, by the way. And he wasn't really spoiling stuff. He was basically showing me how to experience the game. Helped me a lot with the bosses. We did all the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. I got the platinum for that, and I think it was in 35 hours, which is probably the shortest time in the world because it was literally boom, 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 boom. Let's do all this stuff. And while 100% that meant I got to experience Bloodborne, and I love Bloodborne, I really do. I see why it's so great. The combat's great. The world is amazing. I love the world they created in that. I do feel maybe I'm missing the true Souls experience in these games to not have that. But especially with Elden Ring. Elden Ring seems like something to, be to give up 6 hours of your night and be here we go. I'm in this journey. I'm exploring these lands. I got my frigging journal here and I'm writing down my travels and all this stuff. And I'm worried that I won't do that. But Yeah, I'm worried I'm gonna miss that experience, but I do. This is my way of asking for help, Griner. Like, come back and help me with some bosses.
If you
and
want help,
stuff,
let me
but-
know. I don't know if I'm probably way too high level to get into bosses with you, but I'm sure we can
True.
work out something. It's very easy to over level in this game and just become the boss.
Because
So
enemies don't scale in this, do they?
no.
No.
As
Oh,
all
they
good
don't?
open world games should be. Maybe they do to some
Ah.
small extent, but I definitely can go back to the first area and tickle the
destroy
enemies
them.
and they die. Yeah, I'm probably over level. Like, I think I'm about the level you're supposed to be when you finish the game, and I've still got quite a bit to go. I did do a bit of farming to do that. I don't see any problem with it. Like, I'm gonna make this game's freaking hard. I'm gonna make it as easy on myself as I can.
Yeah.
And these games kind of lean into that a bit because if you
For
go
sure.
out and explore everything without just doing the main quest, you'll over level. And if you just do the main quest, you'll probably under level. Like they're built to have a balance, right? But there is no way to achieve that balance. You can't actually map it out and go, every player's going to average 3 hours of exploration for 1 hour of main quest. So it's just it's part of the experience is like sometimes you'll be over leveled and sometimes you'll hit a wall and you just got to go out and grind and be like, well, maybe I did too much of the story now. I'm just going to go and explore this whole other part that I haven't touched yet. And then you'll come back and stomp some face for a few hours, and that's really satisfying.
It's totally been my experience. I'll get to an area and I'm like, this feels bad. Like, I'm not doing enough damage. I'm dying too easy. I'm just going to go and explore these 17 other things that are on my list of things to do and come back when I'm at least.
One issue I do have with this game now, after reading something recently, is that now I feel like I'm going to be hitting walls 50 times to see if there's a hidden.
Yeah,
Did you see this, Conan?
Yeah.
That was so strange. How does anyone figure that out?
There's two in that room. There's two. Like someone discovered last night. There's down the hallway. There's another wall.
Yeah.
You've got to hit 50 times to unlock.
It's weird because the game, obviously FromSoft games have had invisible walls. Every invisible wall on your way through has a bit of writing next to it from a player saying "secret ahead," and none of them are invisible walls. And then all of a sudden, there's invisible walls everywhere. Like, I feel like I didn't find any for the first 15, 20 hours, and then it's like, holy crap, there's invisible walls absolutely everywhere. But, it's interesting. I don't know. There's an effort on Reddit to get everybody to pick a wall and just go attack it for a few hours. They're trying to get spreadsheets organized.
The wall hitting day.
That area is a weird area anyway, and all the invisible walls lead to the same part, so it's kind of pointless. But
that's what I thought I saw. I was like, this doesn't seem to have a reason because it's just that room.
Do we think this is some coding error where they've accidentally put the damage on the wall up?
Probably.
That would be hilarious, but maybe not. And they just want to mess with people.
I wouldn't put FromSoft to just do that and be like, someone will one day find this and it'll be the talk of the internet for a day. It's good for them.
Yeah. Someone's kid just keeps pressing the controller while the parent's away and they'll come back like, what did you do?
I broke the whole castle
down. So you actually bring up something that I wanted to ask you about, probably more so, Griner. I've seen some talk online that people have issues with the messages because they're sick of seeing messages that obviously are troll attempts or getting people to do it, and they say it's just they're scattered everywhere. And to remove these messages, you basically got to turn off every online component to be able to do that. You can't just select the messages.
I mean, you can.
Is that a problem?
You can literally choose not to read them.
But some people are saying like it's in a thing where it's the same button to interact with the thing that they want to interact with.
It is, but
is that a problem or?
Look, I won't say I've never had any issues with it. Like, assholes put them at the bottom of ladders, and it's the same button to read the message as it is to climb the ladder, and there's an enemy chasing you. But if you hammer A,
it's frustrating.
It opens the message, closes the message instantly, and then puts you on the ladder. It's not. I don't think I've ever died because of it. They're dumb.
Could you have, Flo?
I mean, I could have died because I stood still too. It's like every Souls game has had this problem. Every Souls game has had the trolls putting the messages next to walls and stuff. But the number of invisible walls I have found only because of messages is very, very high. The number of ambushes I've been saved from because I read the messages. The number of bosses I've beaten because I'm like, oh crap, of course there's a trick to this. And I read the message and it's like, oh, you just need to use a blunt weapon and they die in 2 hits. I'm like, oh, well, that was way easier than doing 1 damage at a time with my Wolverine claws.
True.
I don't know. The game warns you up front, like, that some of these messages are going to be troll messages, and I don't know.
They're basically like, look, people are assholes. What can you do? What can you do? Well, we might as well since we're discussing Elden Ring, I feel like this is going to be a Elden Ring centric topic. Speaking of assholes, I do just want to quickly touch on. Apparently, it's a shit place to work at FromSoft. So,
Like all video game companies,
I
really.
mean, like all workplaces, am I right? But I just feel like I just want to bring up there was this stuff that's come out recently online about nothing public. It's not like people are going online to say how horrible the work conditions. Obviously, I believe they have a different culture over there than what places in the West do. With crunch and everything like that, especially. But workplace reviews are quite low. I think they're 2.6 out of 5 or 2.2 for job satisfaction. Um, just seems to be like a lot of crunch, a lot of people not being rewarded for overtime, stuff like that. One thing did catch my attention was people saying like working conditions at From Software seem to be particularly poor for women. So there's no special treatments for pregnancy or childcare. Most female employees who are about to give birth are expected to leave the company, as opposed to any paid leave. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just what what's your guys' take on this? Because obviously this is a topic that seems like affects a lot of studios these days. Grana, we had a little argument about it, but I don't feel like this has been reported on too much from the
Can I
people that usually report on it. But
can I give my 2 cents before you guys have at
yes,
it for 20 minutes?
Conan,
So
go.
I think this is indicative more of the Japanese workplace culture in general. Like the entire work culture in Japan is very different to the West. It has been plagued by these problems for like since the Meiji Restoration, really, since like the modern era sort of came to Japan. Like
Yep.
that's sort of how they're a very work focused culture, and there's huge efforts to change that. And comparatively, it is very like it's much better than it was 50 years ago, like it is in the rest of the world. But these issues that are facing them, in no way making excuses for them. But it's not like, whereas in the West, a lot of the companies, it's like this does seem to be endemic to video game industries companies more than anything. It's like they really focus on these problem workplaces and like they have crunch. Whereas Japan is their culture is devoted to, well, not devoted to, but it's built so much on people working 80-hour weeks and
Yeah.
being loyal to companies and giving their life. And unpaid overtime is an endemic problem there. Like there have been movements, there have been laws put in place to stop it, and they can't change that. So it's again, nobody making excuses, but I don't think it's really even. It's like apples and oranges to say this is a problem with this video game company. It's like no, it's a problem with most Japanese companies, and their entire workplace culture has these issues that I don't know if there's a line to draw and say it's just different, or if you can say objectively it's bad.
But
I think there are issues at it, but they plague numerous companies and the work culture there. So like to argue if we should change it is more of like should we change Japanese work culture? And so well, yeah, but what does that mean?
like I completely understand that, and like that's when I saw this like and it coming up from like someone researching like employee reviews on this career website. It's not all these disgruntled people coming to journalists and reporting this like horrible culture. It's like people basically leaving their 2 cents. Like, yeah, this is a shit place to work, but it's a job.
Mm,
It's sort of like suffering in silence, and I feel like that is definitely the difference as opposed to Western culture where it's like this is outrageous. I want to get this out. This is like
mm,
this shouldn't be accepted, and nor should it be in their culture. But it is something they're working through, and I understand that. My main thing is I feel like it should just obviously be addressed since this is a very popular game in the Western world. There are people there in the game journalism world who I'll just say like it's been their thing, like their mantra for the last 3 or 4 years that like crunch is a horrible thing. Like, and like really pushing for unionization in video games, really pushing this, calling out developers for crunch. I checked the Twitter page, haven't mentioned this once, but talking about how much they love Elden Ring. And it just seems really weird to me. And I don't understand that because he's a journalist, Jason Schreier. He would be seeing this. Why is it not being talked about?
Because it's a non-story. This is literally taken from a workplace review website. We don't have articles about every Glassdoor review for workplaces. This isn't like they interviewed a bunch of employees and they're all disgruntled. A whole bunch of ex-employees got together and contacted us about this. That's not what is happening here. It's literally 20 reviews on a Japanese workplace website for the last 10 years. And the people who are going to leave reviews are going to be the disgruntled ones. Now, I'm not saying that the workplace at FromSoft is perfect. I don't know. Neither does Jason Schreier probably, and that's why it's a non-story.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not. I don't have a horse in the race.
Nobody's talking about this.
I'm just saying it's worth bringing up since it gets brought up every other time. That's my only thing.
And it should get brought up every time where there's employees speaking out about it and coming out about it. But this is not that. This is a workplace review website that looks pretty sus to me.
Looks pretty sus. You having
Have
a
you
go
been
at
there?
this career website?
Yes, I am actually, because I looked up their reputation.
Career
and it's
Connection.
Pretty low. It's pretty low reputation as far as I can tell.
Conan, I know you've been out of the loop for a little bit. Greiner's taking shots at Career Connection, instead of addressing
this whole story is based on 20 reviews on a website that reviews workplaces in Japan.
Yeah.
20 reviews in the last 10 years. I just think this is a non-story. This is not like people are coming out of the woodwork to say FromSoft is a bad place to work. And the other thing is, the last story that we got about FromSoft's workplace is that they're rewarding their developers with a bonus because Elden Ring has done so well. Every developer is getting a bonus. That sounds like a good place to work to me. Now, I don't know. Maybe there's really shitty things going on there, and if there is, it should be called out, should be investigated, and people should, withhold this from Game of the Year or whatever punishment we can give to it. But I don't believe there's any evidence to say that.
Look, that's the thing. I just wanted to address it. It's not my topic for the show. I just wanted to address it. Since you did mention it, two things. Yeah, maybe all this should do is just disqualify it for Game of the Year. It goes to Horizon.
You would love that, wouldn't you? I don't think it'll even go to Horizon then, but still.
But discussing how well it's been doing, it has been doing amazing. Conan, what is your topic for the show?
Damn fine segue. Kudos.
Thank you.
So yeah, I just I don't know. I feel like the general game mediascape has just been dominated by why is Elden Ring so good? How can every other game be like Elden Ring?
Yes.
Why can't we have Elden Ring every year? Why is Horizon not as good as Elden Ring? And so on and so forth.
It everywhere.
It's so true. So it's pretty remarkable. Just recently they released some stats on Twitter. Elden Ring sales passed 12 million in less than 3 weeks. I think it was 17 days was the exact number, but it was a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
For reference, the original Dark Souls trilogy has only sold 13 million copies as of March 2016. I think it's now sold 30 something. But the point is, after years of having some of those games out, I think that time was a bit after when 3 came out. So either way, after 3 games, they only just reached 13 million sales collectively, which is, a remarkably big difference. I didn't get the stats for Sekiro or Bloodborne, but both of those were much, much, much smaller as well. They were expecting to hit 4 million around this, I think, in about a month or something. That was FromSoft's, or I think was it Bandai Namco?
Bandai Namco, yeah.
And I think that was their expectations. So they were looking for that. So to have this so much more, so much faster is pretty remarkable.
Bloodborne sold just over 2 million copies in its first year.
There you go.
Which is a travesty.
It is. That makes me sad. But what do you do?
I've been surprised how niche these games actually were. I thought they were just popular, but they're kind of niche.
So did I. I thought everyone sort of gave them a crack, but I don't know. But yeah, for reference, this is the largest, the quickest, most successful open world game since Red Dead 2.
Yep.
That was an event, that game. People were waiting for a long time. It's the biggest IP since The Division, which was 8 years ago. There's a list in Forbes they gave of sort of comparative sales they surpassed. The Division sold 10 million in 3 months. GTA 4 sold 10 million in 3.5 months. God of War 2018 sold 10 million in 13 months. Breath of the Wild sold 10 million in 20 months. These are all big, revered games, and they have sold nothing in comparison. So I guess my question is why? Why is this open world version of a niche game taking the world by storm, especially around the time that the other greatest game ever made, Horizon Forbidden something, came out. Why is this happening? Like, is it just George R. R. Martin's name? Are people still that loyal to him that they're just like, we will play this game over formula we've never touched?
I think George R. R. Martin's value to this would be very small. Like, obviously, we know he didn't contribute much. I'd be surprised if like a lot of people are buying it based off that. There'd be a few who saw the original announcement. He wasn't even mentioned in the last few trailers for this game.
He was mentioned in quite a few of them. There was a lot of marketing for this game, which I think goes towards...
Absolutely. Like, this was talked about more than any of the other Souls games, obviously. I think, obviously, just do you have a game that's getting like rated, the second most best reviewed game of all time? No matter what, people are gonna look at that game and be like, oh, maybe I'll try it. It seems to be like there's a constant narrative around Souls games every time they come out of the amount of people be like, maybe this is the one. I'll try it. I'll try it. And then this is the one that it's working and it's sticking with, and they're finding, okay, I can just leave and go through this. It's not just battering my head against a wall till I can beat this enemy. It's like I can just explore the world or go over here and find easier enemies to fight and stuff like that. And I think that is resonating with a lot more people. With some of those comparisons, like obviously Breath of the Wild, Horizon, all that sort of stuff, they are one console, Elden Ring's on everything. You have people slumming it on the original Xbox. Can you believe that, Conan? On the original Xbox One for 2013 console. 10 years later, someone's playing Elden Ring on it. You have the PC market, which back in the day wasn't too big for these Souls games, but has blown up over the years and is a massive market. And I believe the market share for Elden Ring sales, 44% were PC sales. The last number I saw. PS4, PS5 took up another 40%, and then 20% was on Xbox. You just have, like, when you look at, if this was next gen exclusive, you're looking at, there's only 20 million consoles out there at the moment, but this includes PS4 and Xbox One. There's literally 110 million PS4s sold and out there in the world that people own. Xbox is around 40 million, I believe. It's crazy.
But do you think that those people wouldn't also have had the previous gen, so they would have just bought it on there? Like, they're not buying it on... I feel like a lot of those would be double ups. People would have a PS4 and a PS5, and they're not going to buy two copies. So I don't think it's... I don't know if it's like every PS4 owner has a copy and PS5 owner has a copy.
No, but I'm just saying, like, when you have, like, people... Obviously, there's a lot more PS4 owners out there than PS5 owners. People can't get PS5s even if they really want to at the moment, and for the last year and a half. And people who have a PS4, they know if they buy it on PS4, it's going to work on PS5. There's a much more bigger market share there. Like, this is literally, you have 200 consoles. You count how many people play on PC. You have 200 million potential people who want to buy this. Well, I feel like Horizon is on PS4 and PS5, but it might be a different story because I feel like a lot of people who want a PS5 and who want Horizon want to wait till they can finally get their hands on a PS5 to play that experience.
I guess so. Fair enough. But I guess compare it then to something like, so Skyrim came out and it sold 10 million in 1 month. And that was also every platform. That was all across
PS3 and 360, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago, but it was still, what I'm saying is that was spread across the market. So I don't know if I can
No, that's crazy. That's crazy. I wouldn't even believe it, that number of Skyrim only doing that number. This is a phenomenon. Like, I can't get away from Elden Ring dialogue. It's everywhere on Twitter. It's what everyone's talking about. And it seems like this is usually what the flavor of the month, like flavor of the week. It's like, okay, boom, Halo for a week. We're all talking about that. Horizon for a week. For some reason, Gran Turismo 7, Forza Horizon for a week.
Nobody was talking about Gran Turismo 7. Sorry.
Hey, no, there's a lot of controversy about this microtransactions, but there's all these games that come out and are a flash in the pan where they're the dialogue for a week. Elden Ring's persisting, and it seems like everyone's playing it because there's so much to do in this game, I feel like. But
I think that's part of it. The thing for me is that I feel like we're finally coming out of a drought. Like, I feel like our Game of the Year discussions for last year kind of weak. Like, there wasn't any huge AAA games that came out that last year.
Yep.
Even the year before that was kind of weak. And I feel like this is the game that's breaking that drought, right? Like, it's a AAA open world game. It's available on every platform. And it's getting incredibly good reviews. Who wouldn't want to pick that up with the games we've had over the last couple of years?
So people do listen to game journalists still?
To some extent, of course they do.
Okay.
They shouldn't. But I just like when you say that 100%. The last massive AAA game that I can think of that came out across all platforms was Red Dead Redemption 2.
There's been games like Far Cry, right? But
but they've
been received really poorly, right? Like,
yeah,
they've had bad word of mouth, bad critical scores. Whereas, like, the day this game came out, literally everybody on Twitch was playing it.
Yep.
You know, it's still the third most played game today on Steam. Like, what are we, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out? Like, that's pretty unheard of for a largely single player game. That never happens. There's not another single player game on that list. And to talk about George R.R. Martin's, influence, I will just say, because you won't unsee this now, all the major characters in that game start with G, R, R, or M.
Yeah. Like all the bosses, isn't it? Or...
Yeah, it's not even all the bosses. It's just like major characters. There's a character that you talk to about them, and he literally lists them as G, R, R, M. It's kind of a cute little thing, but
that made him $1 million. So, like,
Probably.
part of me hopes on coming off that, like, this is the great, shift in our cultural milieu where we're kind of realizing now, we've been sold, FIFA 21s and just the constant cycle of that. We've been sold the same COD games recycled. We've been sold safe Ubisoft open worlds. Or we've been sold just games that exploit multiplayer microtransactions. And so this is finally the turnaround because it's a AAA, let's say, basically single-player open-world game that seems to defy everything else that contemporary gaming seems to perpetuate.
I can't spend more money on this game. There's no microtransactions,
which is amazing,
cosmetics,
right?
Which is great. Yeah,
and it's not it's not a subscription thing. You're not getting this Game Pass. You pay it, you play it. You can not most people, but a lot of people will be playing it by themselves with no interaction, and that's it. And I truly do hope that this is part of that sort of the drought that you were talking about has actually sort of impacted people, and people are realizing now. Like, even streaming on Twitch is kind of surprises me. Because again, talking about how niche these games were before, I'm like, who would be wanting to watch that though? But apparently, everybody in the years since Sekiro and everyone's sort of come around going, oh yeah, Souls games are a thing we all want. And so I truly hope this is like a bar setter. And that's my other question. Do you guys think that we'll start to see the Elden Ring formula for the next 10 years? We're coming out of the Ubisoft.
Oh, no.
Since Assassin's Creed back in, what was that, 05, 06? I don't know.
07 Assassin's Creed.
So we've had 15 years of that. Will we see 15 years of Elden Ring?
Can you imagine if, like, for the next 10 years, because obviously games go in this whole formula and just everyone starts mimicking popular games, if Ubisoft just like let's just remove all our map markers.
Legit, there's
let's remove quest logs. There's let's just remove all that. There we go, boys. We got Elden Ring.
The funny thing is, literally yesterday they put a patch on Elden Ring to put some map markers in, like NPCs are now marked on your map. They're adding them back in. But yeah, it's an interesting formula to try and copy because, like you say, you can't just remove all the map markers from a Ubisoft game and get the same game. And
people it would be bad.
Yeah, it would be bad. And people said this about Breath of the Wild too. Like, is everybody going to copy Breath of the Wild? But I don't feel like we've had that many Breath of the Wild clones. Like, the one people point to is Genshin Impact, but it's a very, very different game to Breath of the Wild. This is the only game that I think comes close to it in terms of the sense of scale and exploration. But I really do hope more people look to just give us that scale, give us this detailed world, give us this reason to explore your universe, your world, and let's worry less about filling it with menial tasks.
Yeah, I mean, people will attempt to try and do this, but I don't know. You can't FromSoft unless you're FromSoft.
No, so. I do think you've got to actually build it from the ground up, and I mean, because we did have a lot of and we still do have a lot of Souls clones and games that kind of are just this is Souls-based combat, and the idea of once you die, you have to regain your stuff, and we've seen that for a long time.
Every game is described as it's just like Dark Souls, or
That
it's the
word is
Dark Souls.
overused too.
Man, WWE
Yeah.
2K20 is like the Dark Souls of wrestling games. It's like
It's very
ridiculous.
Souls-like. Yeah. So I do. Yeah, I wonder if we'll start to see a lot more of it now, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's just I think this game is a weird anomaly, and like it's the best kind of news I could hope for this. I feel
Yeah.
like even when this was announced, all those years ago, it was kind of like a lot of people, like we were excited and people were excited, but it wasn't like, it wasn't the big billing. People weren't really like, look, we're going to have an Elden Ring reveal. It happened and everyone was like, cool, yeah. But now this is I feel like the next thing they'll do will be the biggest thing in the gaming world, which is awesome to see them finally getting their dues.
But they're talking about going back to Armored Core, which will be, I don't know if that'll play the same, but we'll see.
No, bad day.
I remember watching the reveal for Elden. I still remember watching like the live reveal of Elden Ring, and like for the first 10 seconds of that trailer, being like, "Oh, it's Bloodborne 2! It's Bloodborne 2!"
Yeah.
It wasn't, but maybe one day. Who knows? But yeah, just one final note. I think Griner nailed it. Like we have had very much, I think, a drought of quality games. And go back and watch our Game of the Year of the Decade podcast. There are a lot of big hitters. Like some years in that was like, wow, how do I pick a Game of the Year? And then last year was like, what do I pick for Game of the Year?
Honestly, how do I pick none of
How
these
do I
to
pick a Game of the Year this year?
Yeah, like I loved my Game of the Year, but it was an indie game through and through.
Yeah.
Like it was not the AAA heavy hitter that you kind of expect.
And
No.
I loved Life is Strange, but like a lot of these games that we talked about, like you put them into a 2018 or a 2017, they're not in the running really against some of those other games. But this year's looking good so far. You guys need to get a next gen console.
Maybe. I keep clicking the add to cart button. I just can't hit the pay button. That's my problem.
So, Griner, what topic do you have for us this week?
I had a few little ones. I guess on the note of Elden Ring, one of the things that has frustrated me recently with games is tutorials. I hate you get into a game, you're excited to play it, and then they just talk to you for like an hour. They dole out these new mechanics very slowly. I just want to play the game. I want to get in there, I want to get my stuff, and I want to do the thing. I want to play the gameplay loop. Instead, they just dole this stuff out slowly and slowly over time. And the one that was really egregious to me was Pokemon Arceus. I've been playing Pokemon games for the better part of 20 years. I know what a Pokemon is. I know I need to throw a Pokeball at it. And even though they added all these new mechanics, as soon as I picked up that controller, I knew what I had to do to catch a Pokemon. It wasn't weird to me. It wasn't strange to me. But the first 2-3 hours of that game is so slow. Everybody talks to you. Everybody's got a story. And I just want to get into the game. Give me that story as I'm going or something, or tell the story.
Was there no option to skip?
Nice. No, I think you could skip a couple of little things, but not the whole tutorial, not the big parts.
The way they structured it.
Like, I don't need them to tell me what a Pokemon is. I don't need to know how to fight Pokemon. I've done this a million times before. And I think even someone picking it up today, I don't know, maybe I have too much trust in gamers, but I feel like developers should trust gamers a bit more. And that's why one of the things I loved about the start of Elden Ring is, like, there's not a tutorial. There is a cave of knowledge you can drop down into and refresh your skills if you want. But
I did that.
Yeah, I did it too because it's totally worth it to get
into it.
It was totally worth it to get the few runes, and you can shop at the merchant at the end. But otherwise, the second thing you face is the tree sentinel, who will absolutely kick your ass. But I'm in the world then. I'm doing my thing, and I loved it. And there's another game that I'm really keen to get into as soon as I finish Elden Ring called Tunic. It came out this last week, and it just drops you. Yeah, it just drops you straight into the world as well, from what I've seen. And I love that. Like, let me experience the world and learn about it from that, rather than you telling me step by step and slowly giving me the features. And I don't mind unlocking things as I go and that sort of thing, but when they hold back core mechanics, that really frustrates me. Like, give me the stuff up front, let me figure it out, and let me get out of the world. Do you guys have any examples of tutorials that you think were done poorly or well? Do you agree with me that tutorials have... I mean, they didn't tell us how to jump in Mario. That's the thing that people always go back to. I don't know if it's a good example. Games have gotten significantly more complicated since then, but I don't know. I'm over them.
Oh, like, my favorite, like, it's very similar to Elden Ring sort of stuff. My favorite way that people do tutorials, it's really you only notice it's a tutorial like if you're, a gamer and you're like, okay, this is what they're doing. They're slowly, okay, now there's an enemy with this, so I'm going to use this other weapon that I just picked up, and like I just found this weapon, so
Yeah.
obviously this is for that person, and like they guide you and just sort of kind of brainwash you to be like, no, this is the mechanics. Yeah, you're going to climb that. Yeah, did you notice that was yellow? That's why you can climb that as opposed to this and that sort of stuff. The one that always comes to my mind when I think about it, I don't have any of like that are really bad. Obviously, there's some that just beat you over the head and like look up, look down, look left, look right. Halo, looking at them
Yeah, so
lights. Every Halo
aligning
game.
sight. That always works.
um,
It was maybe novel for the first one, the first time people were using sticks to control cameras and stuff. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's like people know what they're doing now when they get into games. I don't know why. It's just what comes to my mind is Oblivion. Like
Mm.
I just you start in the jail cell. Here's some exposition stuff. You go through, you pick up weapons, and yeah, it is very much Fallout does the same thing. It is kind of hand holding, but
Mm.
playing that for the first time, it was like, okay, cool. There's these enemies, ranged attack. Oh, up close attack, this and that. They guide you very much through a tunnel, very linear, like this different enemy types, magic enemy, this and that. Then boom, door, open world, and it's like there you go. And it's literally like once you've played that and you replay it again, you can cruise through that in like 5 minutes. I feel like that whole opening thing to get to the open world. The first time you're learning, and by the time you get to the open world, you feel like okay, here we go. I'm ready. Like, I'm on my adventure to start.
they always did the great thing too, where like the last step is like, do you want to change anything about your character? So you could always just save at that last
Yes.
door. You never have to do the tutorial again. You can change your character and get out into the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying that's a good way to do it or a bad way? To do it?
I do like that. I think
Okay.
like if I came across that now, and obviously it's been a while since I played a Bethesda game, like I feel like it would be very hand holding. It's just one that comes to my mind as like I enjoyed that like as a way to tutorial sort of thing. But
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering because I think Oblivion is one of the greatest games of all time.
it
But
is. It is.
like because I remember the Fallout 3 is basically the exact same thing of like shoot these little rats with your BB gun and like this is how you do VATS and all this sort of stuff.
Fallout
But
3 felt a lot longer in my memory anyway.
yeah,
I think Oblivion was okay. Like it definitely at least fits with the world. Like you have a reason to be escaping out of this cave. Like I'm alright.
exactly. You're not going to a shooting range. Like it's not like here.
Yeah.
Why don't we practice some archery? Here, oh, show me some magic skills. It's literally like you'll have to do this. Like I don't mind that sort of stuff as a tutorial, but I wish like those sort of games should have nothing story related happen in that and just be like, hey, are you a real gamer? And you're like, yes. And then just transports you to the end and be like, all right, you're on. Here, go enjoy.
It checks your trophies, and if you've got more than 5, it's like, yeah, you can skip this.
You're good.
No,
You're good.
The best ones are the ones that do incorporate story and they actually make it part of the game. The worst ones are when they're like, there's a tutorial that it forces you to do, or even it's like, you should probably do this, and it's just nothing but a practice. Those are the awful.
I mean, that's what Luke's saying, pretty much, though.
I don't mind it. I get what you're saying because Oblivion's probably is like bad. When I look at it, it's like the describe like it's what I dislike in tutorials, but I didn't mind in that. The one that I can think of that I think does it well is Last of Us, where it's like, okay, it shows you how to interact with certain things while you're just going through the story. I know you're going through Seattle with Joel, and then you come across enemies, and it's here we go, chest high walls for the first time, and it's like you go into that, and then it teaches you the different gun types and stuff like that, and the different ways and enemies come through and stuff like that. And this enemy's got a helmet on, so you got to do this differently.
Yeah.
But that not so noticeable. I feel like I haven't played Oblivion in 10 years. I feel like if I played it now, I'd probably hate the tutorial. I just know back then it was kind of like this got me ready for the world in a good way. But
see, my memory, because I adore Oblivion as well. Like I can't say enough good stuff about that game, and it was my first Elder Scrolls to come into. But my memory of that is still I remember that dungeon going on forever, and just these long dark labyrinths. And like, oh, I've got to kill another rat. Okay, I've got to do this. And so I remember I saved at the very end because I'm like, I don't ever want to do that again. And I'm never like I just And so every time I went to start a new game, I wouldn't. I would just go to that load. I'm like, I don't
Wow,
care.
I did that opening so many
Because I couldn't
times.
stand the fact that Patrick Stewart walks in and he's like, "Hey, come with me. Don't follow me, but spend the next half hour going through this stupid
You are the one
map."
from my dreams.
Can't stand it. Whereas Fallout 3, I thought even though again it's the same sort of problem with all Bethesda stuff, it
Fallout
kind of
3 is way worse.
it
Fallout 3 is
incorporated
way
because
worse.
it incorporates story. You actually witness some elements from your past, and you go, okay, here's my
His
dad.
whole life.
Here's characters who will come in later.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's got the shooting range issue, which is a problem with most shooters, where they're like, "Can you shoot a gun?" It's like, holy crap, we've been playing these since
Call of
since
Duty used to
Doom.
do that. It was
Stop.
like, let's go to the shooting range first. Do
Yeah,
this. But
that stuff's garbage.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the other thing, speaking of Bethesda's though and Elder Scrolls, it's things like the Skyrim tutorial, where it's almost not a tutorial, but it's like a weird intro. Those are the ones that kind of bug me, where they're not even teaching you skills. They're like, here's a 40-minute introduction to the world and the lore. And like, I'm sure you guys remember, but in Skyrim, you wake up in the cart,
Yeah.
and it goes
Everybody
on.
remembers
Oh,
that.
man.
It goes on. Everyone still
Yeah.
wakes up in the cart.
Hey, you're finally awake.
Yeah,
Yes,
and just
I'm aware of.
and you know, and there's just this long conversation where they're like, "Hey, did you hear about that event?" And it's like, "Oh, hey, get it, guys? We're telling you some background story because you
That-
can't do anything to escape this."
Yeah, that one's especially egregious because there's not even a cutscene that you can skip. Like, at least if it's a cutscene, you can just skip it at the start of the game. That one is like, you're in the world and you're sitting there listening to this dude prattle on in the back of a cart.
And there was an interesting comparison I saw between that and Call of Duty Modern Warfare, where they were like, "This is how you do the same thing, but effectively." Because in Modern Warfare, I don't know if you guys remember it, but you're a hostage in a taxi, and you're getting driven through this like war zone in a city, and you come to the end.
yeah.
This guy drags you out and just kills you, and it's like, I don't know. There's a video on YouTube. It's very fascinating to say this is how you do it, but it's kind of, again, it's showing the world around you, and it's taking you through it, and you sort of pick up bits of information as you go by saying, "Oh, there's this group killing that group there. Oh, there's hostages being slaughtered. Okay, so this is pretty messed up." You hear bits of news articles, and then you get to the end, you find this guy and you die. And it's like, I get it sets the tone more than anything, which is important. Because okay, this is kind of going to be a tough game.
But
It's got to
then
be
it does take you to the shooting range in
that's
that
another
game.
yeah, and
You
that's a
run
problem
through
as well.
you run through the
That's a big
obstacle
issue.
course as well. And
Yeah,
then it
that sucks.
recommends the difficulty of the game based off that, which is
Yeah.
a neat thing to be like, yeah, you go on just story, please. that's for you. But
Yeah.
yeah. Like, that's the thing. I was just looking at a list and it kind of brought some up for me. Like Assassin's Creed, the original Assassin's Creed, to bring that up
Yeah,
again
that was awful. Hey.
is really bad. Like teaching how to do everything. And then like, man, that era was the worst of PS3 and 360 because it's like they show you this one thing and then it's like loading screen for 40 seconds of like Altair walking in like the Animus. And it's like, okay, cool. Here's another story beat. Loading screen again. It's just the worst thing ever. But one thing they mentioned on here, I just want your guys' take on it. Dark Souls is on this list, the original Dark Souls.
It's been good or bad?
It's on top 10 worst list of tutorials. It's number 6 on the list.
I looked at that list as well, but their reasoning was like, it doesn't give you anything. It's too like you're just you're not ready for it. It's like, well, yeah, that's the point of it. Again, I think that's effective because it sets the tone for what you're experiencing. Imagine if that game was like, here's how you swing a sword. Here's how you do this.
I mean, it nearly does that though, right? Like, it gives you those enemies who don't even attack back right at the start and gives you a sword straight away. You can look at the messages on the ground and it literally tells you press right trigger to swing for a light attack. You know, it does explain it to you, but I think I like the Dark Souls because it puts you up against a pretty hard boss. Like that boss, everybody dies to that boss at least once, if not several times.
Yeah.
See, Demon Souls. So neither of you guys have played Demon Souls. I remember first playing that, and it's very much the same thing. Like it's got the messages on the ground that are optional to read that tells you how to do attacks. And there's a bunch of skeletons for the first like 5 minutes, which it's one hit kill. Like that, you kill them, they never fight back. I remember being like, man, I'm so good at games. Like I've heard this is hard, and I am slaughtering these fools, dodging these skeletons. Yeah, backstabbing. Like, man, I'm unstoppable. And then like the first dude that has armor on, like messed me up basically. But
do you know about tutorial? Fable. That game had like hours of tutorial.
I was just thinking about that. I hated how long that tutorial was. The one thing I did like about the tutorial is I did feel like they put extra secrets in there. Like there was like, you know, like I can't remember what the doors were that talked to you, but it was like, oh, there's a puzzle to solve here.
Yeah, demon doors.
Demon doors. Like there was fun things to do in there, but you're right, it was a very long tutorial. Another one where you start off as a child and watch yourself grow up. It was painful.
Because like I got talked about last time. I played a little bit of it again on Game Pass, and I got like 5 minutes in. I got to the guild. I was like, oh no, there's more of this. Hey, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I checked out. Good ones that I had written down real quick were a Fallout 3, which I'm a fan of. And Dead Space 2 had a cool tutorial as well. Did you guys ever play that?
What is it?
I played it, but I can't remember the tutorial.
So basically, sorry, Luke, did you play it at all?
I played it. I don't remember tutorial either.
So basically, you start up fresh. It's a starting. There's a tiny bit of. Oh no! So basically, there's a doctor is talking. He's giving you a quick rerun. He's like, "Oh, the Ishimura was destroyed. Blah blah blah. Hey, we got to get you out." And like he comes out, he's like, "We got to get you out." And you're in a straitjacket. So it's got this weird nightmarish rehash of about 30 seconds of what happened. And then he's trying to get you out of it, and then one of the aliens just like it goes through his head, and it literally just explodes it apart. So it's really gory, really violent, and then you like break out and run, and you've got to sprint down a hallway. So you sort of learn that sort of thing. You realize there's an obstacle in one. You can climb over this. It's like, okay, so I can climb these things. I can go past these. This is how I interact with doors, and then you get the plasma cutter. It's really tense because you've got to actually interact with it and try to get it out, and then this dude's coming at you. And you do it just in time, kill it. And it's like it's a really tense moment. You get to the end, it's like, oh, I've survived. I've actually had to learn on the fly. It's been stressful and tense, like these interactions are going to be. It does a really good job of both setting tone, but also reminding you of how to play this game.
Yeah, true. One I just want to mention that seems to be on all these lists. I've never played it, but man, I just need to talk about this tutorial for Driver, the original Driver game. So it says Driver gives players a list and 1 minute to get out of the garage to start the game, and it's like a list of things. It says, at least with the case of Jet Set Radio, players are tasked with performing moves in individual trials before immediately given a demonstration. Driver for the PlayStation just puts players in a garage, gives them a list of tasks and a minute to pull off all the moves without angering the passenger. Don't know what a slalom or a reverse 180 is, then get comfortable in that garage because the rest of the game is inaccessible otherwise. Driver is one of the few cases where the very first task is widely regarded as the hardest part of the game. That's not a good way to do a tutorial, so don't do that.
Another one that came to mind for me was Half-Life 2. It's I don't know, playing it again, it's like, oh, this is kind of tiring, but, you know, it starts off with a train ride, and then you're walking around the city and interacting with the Combine and stuff, and it was so good at setting the atmosphere. It was one of the first games where, like, people would walk and talk and face you while they were talking. That was, like, new at the time. And physics, like, there was all things to pick up and throw around, and you could throw them at the enemies and they would come and whack you. And it was just so good at setting the atmosphere and introducing those mechanics, because I think they know, you know how to shoot a gun. We'll give you a gun later, and, you know, you'll face easy enemies at the start, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. It was so good at setting atmosphere. I've played that game through that game several times, and it is like, all right, I just want to get to the next bit, but the first time, so good at setting atmosphere and getting it, showing those few mechanics.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the final topic of the week. PlayStation this week had another state of play. They only had one a week and a half ago. It's crazy. We've gone months without one. So this one was all focused on Hogwarts Legacy. Obviously a big open world RPG game. RPG in the Harry Potter universe. Are you guys Harry Potter fans? Greiner?
No, I can't say I am particularly. I've seen the movies. I don't hate them actively or anything like that, but I was trying to think, there's 4 houses, isn't there? What's the 4th house? But nah.
Hufflepuff.
Nah, Hufflepuff was in my head. Hufflepuff,
Ravenclaw.
Slytherin, Ravenclaw. That's the one I hadn't thought about. There you go.
Yep.
What's
Conan,
a Hufflepuff? Can someone
you
tell me
seem
what
like a Hufflepuff. Conan, you seem like a
Isn't Hufflepuff the lame house? It's where all the
the
like
dorks go.
It's the dorks go there.
Yeah. We would have been in Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I would have been Hufflepuff for sure.
I'm a Slytherin boy from way back. No,
Yeah.
Harry Potter is possibly the lamest. It's so lame. I don't get
Oh,
why people
wow.
like Harry Potter. I
What a
it
hot
genuinely
take.
it genuinely boggles my mind how there are like fans out there. Harry is a weenie little boy going
Who
Enscardium
becomes a man?
Leviosa with the lamest sounding little spells. Their fights are so dorky. They like twirl it and it's little like sparkler. They got sparklers at each other. And they're like,
Man.
oh wow, you knocked him over. Ugh. They fly. Oh,
I didn't
it's
expect such a hot take.
No. Well,
I,
I cannot wait for our other podcast to do the Harry Potter movies on the good,
no,
bad,
all right, so
worst.
exception. Some of those are okay because they're actually, like you
Some of
say,
them are great movies.
well, yeah, we witness Harry becoming a man. We witness character growth. So some of them are actually good films. Like there's a couple that
Yeah.
are really really good.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying with those, you could replace it with anything. You could replace it with something cool, and but these are amazing films. But instead, I'm like,
Yeah.
they would be great, but I've got to still deal with these annoying little wizards in a lame world that feels so dweeby.
Yeah.
I will never understand why there are people who love this stuff. Who will the fact
And
that this game's been coming out for
people
so long and people love it, and they're like, we're finally getting Hogwarts Legacy. I'm like, why on earth does anyone give a crap?
So
Why?
Here's the thing. Like growing up, I was very much not a Harry Potter guy. I felt like you were either a Lord of the Rings guy or a Harry Potter guy.
Exactly.
They were coming out at the
That
same time.
that is the weeniest thing. Like that's the weeniest tribalism.
You
Talking
know,
about weenie things.
No,
But
was
it
the thing
happened,
that
I
came
know.
up, yeah.
it's just they literally were coming out the same. Like the original trilogy was coming out at the same time as each other, and so you had to decide. Like me, as like a 10-year-old, had to decide: am I going to be a boy or a man?
Exactly right. It's like I can hang out with these little wieners who are my age,
Or
or I can hang out with
Aragorn?
Aragon. Freaking face, man.
Yeah.
It's not even a question.
No. So obviously though, I feel like Harry Potter is a big thing for my generation. Who like those characters are the same age as me, like growing up. So growing up watching those films, and I did watch them when they came out. It was very much like when I first watched this, I was a little kid, and now I'm watching the final one, and I'm like a teenager, and they're 18 years old. It was a big event, and I know when it finished, it felt like a big event. Some people love this series, man. Like
This is what I'm
Harry
saying.
Potter fans are Harry Potter fans for life, and like I knew a bunch of them in school who just love this series to death. And I feel like it is an exciting thing to have Hogwarts Legacy because I don't feel like we've had a great Harry Potter game. And watching Conan, did you
Because
watch
Harry
this?
Potter's
Did
lame.
you did you watch the gameplay reveal though?
I did, and the whole time I'm like, I was cringing to be
Because
brutally
Harry Potter's
honest.
not in this. This is just Hogwarts. This is set in the 1800s.
I'm well aware. So I
I
watched the whole thing for you, man. That's how
I
much I
think.
respect this podcast.
Do you think this game looks interesting
Not in the slightest.
at
I
all? Really?
let's lean into. I honestly think it looks very much like a kind of cookie cutter RPG. It move. They all move like that. It feels like even there's cinematics in there of them like opening a chest. It's like you can explore these interesting worlds that have seasonal rotations. And I'm like, this is just going to be like every other RPG now. This is going to be like Horizon. It's going to be like.
Hey, let's not bring Horizon hate to
It's
discuss Hogwarts Legacy.
going to be like
Like,
Ghost of Tsushima. It's just going to be this like we're an open
oh my
world game,
god!
and you have quests to mark off on your maps. And if you go to the
Oh my
towers, you
god!
can clear stuff. It's going to be
Just
super
because Elden
generic.
Ring doesn't have quest logs doesn't
No,
mean
it
every other game
doesn't.
is wrong for it.
It's going to be super generic, but with a Harry Potter flavor. And I'm
Well,
just that's the
I,
worst thing in my mind. It's two awful things combined to make one super awful thing.
I didn't realize one of my guests was the biggest Harry Potter hater in the world. Griner, what did you
So,
think of this, or what's your thoughts or
Look, I'm
feelings
not the
about it?
biggest Harry Potter hater in the world, but I think this will appeal to Harry Potter fans. Probably, I am not very interested in it. I think, man. So the combat reminded me a lot of like the old Batman style, where everybody stands and they wait their turn to attack, and then you can counter or whatever. Like the combat looked really awkward. You're right. Like, oh, here's the chest opening animation, and when they introduced like you can build your own player housing. I'm like, oh, like this looks bad. This is building settlements in Fallout 4. I would never ever ever spend any time in that.
Yeah.
And they had like, I don't know, they look like free to play mechanics where it's like set your cauldron going and come back in 4 hours when it's finished, and you can upgrade your cauldron so it happens in half the time. Like that stuff looked really lame. I think this will appeal to Harry Potter fans probably, but it's not for me.
And good for them for having a game.
Which there are a lot. I really believe this game is going to do massive. Like I think this game will be massive when it comes out. Just going off the analytics alone of like the YouTube reveal of it, like it's doing very, very good numbers. Where like I believe in 24 hours or so, it beat like it's beat the Starfield reveal from, which is a massive game from Bethesda. Like it's just, there are a lot of Harry Potter fans out there, believe it or not. It's crazy. They're hiding in the shadows somewhere. But
no, they're all very vocal. And they're all writing weird Harry Potter fan fiction with lots of erotic subtext.
So here's the thing. Obviously, I do feel like this looks like a by the book RPG. Gameplay and combat seem to be my major concern watching it. I was like, it looks very very basic. It doesn't look exciting to fight in this game. It could be it could be exciting. Like it, you could make it work. I think the main draw of this is for Harry Potter fans to have this game. And what I'll admit, this game, like the reveal surprised me. I was not expecting much from it. What was there impressed me because I guess with my expectations, how big this game looks like. It looks like it's a fairly big open world game to just like walk around Hogwarts Castle, go outside the grounds, like ride the broomstick, ride around, compete in Quidditch games, all this sort of stuff. This seems like the ultimate dream game for our Harry Potter fan. Like if this was the same game or same preview for something set in like the Lord of the Rings and they're showing you running around Hobbiton as a hobbit, holy shit, would I be thinking this is like the game of the generation finally arriving? Like I feel like for a Harry Potter fan, this is like the perfect game that like going to classes and like learning potions, and then learning this stuff. Like, man, that's like right up their Diagon Alley,
Nice. Got it in there.
It's just
the Sorting Hat will give you a house. Do you reckon you get to pick your house?
It says,
but they didn't say it though. They didn't say it.
It says it'll give you a house.
It says it will select a house for you, and if that's not choosable, that's pretty dope. I feel like
I guarantee you it won't.
I guarantee it's like they choose a house and they're like, but do you want to, or would you rather be in Gryffindor? Okay, you can go. But what would be interesting, and I think they would beat you over the head with it, make it so obvious, is like the first hour of the game is like a bunch of moral, like just the conversations you're having on the train to Hogwarts. It's you interacting with people. Oh, you tripped that person over, or you responded with that, and then the hat's like, no, you're a fucking Slytherin for the rest of this game.
It would be really.
You're not a nice person.
It'd be funny if like it's like Mass Effect dialogue, but instead of Paragon, what's the other Renegade choices? It's like Gryffindor choice, Slytherin choice, Ravenclaw choice,
and it's just like you did nothing, or you chose the most like basic answers. Just like you're a Hufflepuff for the rest of this game.
Pretty useless, kid.
We have your IP address. You can't go back and change it. New save. You're a Hufflepuff now for life.
I will play the game if it does that. If it actually makes choices, it's like you can't change. This is who you are. You have to learn to be a Ravenclaw, and you have to learn to like it. No Gryffindor for you, kid.
Calling it now. There'll be some microtransaction to be like you can swap your house halfway through the season.
It just picks you randomly, no matter what. So for $3.99, you can change it though. I think that's the problem that you were saying is that you can easily envision this being like the exact same game, but Lord of the Rings skinned. And it's like, oh, great game. It's the Lord of the Rings RPG. The fact that it's just like, this is the RPG for that kind of bums me out. It's like, they're not making a good game. They're just making an RPG for Harry Potter. And so it's got all the tropes, all the boxes, and you could easily reskin this with anything. And
other IP.
Like, I was like, this is an RPG of that. I don't know. This is a Doctor Who RPG. Like, any of that would work in this mod.
But what I'm saying, like, that's not, it doesn't need to be more than that. You know, like
its target audience is the people who will buy it no matter what. So
yeah, but like for those people as well, they will love this game. This is what they've wanted. Like what I'm saying is like if there was a game where I can run around all of Hobbiton and like literally walk on like a 60-hour main story RPG from Hobbiton to Mount Doom, I think that would be the coolest thing ever. The game that was the closest to allow me to do that was Lego Lord of the Rings, and I thought that was awesome because of that. Just running around this world and seeing there's Weathertop, here's here. Oh, we're in Rohan now. Like that was so cool to me, and to have that in this with these graphics and this world and going to the classes, I feel like that's a really cool thing for Harry Potter fans, and I think this is the perfect game for them. Like this is what they'll love this game. It's not going to win game of the year or anything like that, or appeal to people outside of that. But people who are interested in that universe, this is a perfect game for them.
It's the opium of the masses, huh?
Yeah.
Just keep them numb, give them what they want. Don't do anything. Don't do anything to break a sweat, guys. We don't want to.
Conan,
we don't want to make good art.
No.
We just want to make a Harry Potter game.
Conan, what IP reskin of this do you think would
legit nothing? Because I think of the IP that
Firefly.
I think of Back to the Future games. I think of Firefly. I think of I don't know, Tintin. I think of any of this stuff that I'm like, if you just reskinned it with the things I adore, I'm like, you can hang out in this world. I'd be like, I don't care because I don't want to do that. I want a good game. And I realize I'm in the minority here. And like you say, I think this game will do well because
very well. I think
everyone who wants it is just like, I want to hang out. I literally want to go to class in Harry Potter land, and they will do that in this game. I just think, my perspective is not as that fan, so of course it's going to be different. I'm not going to say this is a good game because I think it will be a genuinely poor game, but it will do well because same way the reason that people who love soccer buy FIFA, they don't buy anything else. They don't have any other games on their PlayStation, but they have FIFA because they love soccer. It doesn't mean there's a good game; it just means they love soccer.
I think it'll be a good game. I think it's like.
Yeah, you're Ghost of Tsushima though, so
7 and 8. Oh man, don't
7 and
start.
8. Are you not? Oh.
I think he might be right. I think it will score reasonably. I don't think it'll score high. I don't think it'll be. It's not going to be Elden Ring. This is the greatest game of all time.
Imagine a year from now, Hogwarts Legacy's wiped out the talk of Elden Ring.
Yeah.
This game I was hoping would take inspiration from is something like Persona. Because one of the things about the books that people love is the relationships between the characters. It's like a boarding school drama with magic and adventure, and they totally could have done that and had a system where you're developing relationships with your classmates, and that would have been
at least a high school simulator.
Exactly, that's exactly what it should have been. Because
that makes more sense than an RPG. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but Persona is an RPG on top of that, and you can totally do both. And that's what I was hoping I would see. I was hoping it would be develop relationships with your classmates. And they're like, meet these new characters, but it totally seems like part of the story. It's like, now you're going to go meet this guy, and he's the one who's going to help you train animals, and this one's the one that's going to teach you how to do potions properly. And stuff like that.
There's an overarching dark story that's happening. But that's the thing, it would be interesting to not have this world-ending event happening and be because they literally say that this could be the end of the wizarding world.
I had the same thought. I checked out after that. I was like, why do you need this? You don't need to have every 50 years this arc.
We know it doesn't happen because 200 years from now, Harry Potter's going to save the wizarding world. And 100 years from now, Newt Scamander going to fix it in Fantastic Beasts or whatever.
I do hope is we get a lot of insight into how the plumbing works and how whatever, there's no toilets. So I want to see that in effect where it's I don't know, cutscenes of defecation and wizarding it away. That's what I want in this game. And it's like a David Cage game. It's move the stick around to cast the spell to remove your turd. Otherwise, it builds up, and then all of Ravenclaw smells like shit.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's an interesting prediction.
Wait, can I just say, our friend, what's the author's name?
J.K. Rowling.
So she recently came out and said that wizards removed their fecal matter from their body using magic. That was something she came out with.
Wait, what?
That's what I'm referencing.
That's what you're referencing?
I just thought Conan... thank God. That makes make more sense. I can follow your train of thought now.
Because somebody was like, how does the plumbing work? Because they were like, plumbing didn't exist in this era or something, and they were trying to figure it out. And she made this tweet. And it was one of those other ones of why does she keep adding to this crap? Just let it die.
Pun intended. But that's weird though, because there's toilets in Harry Potter, the movies.
There's bathhouses. Is there toilets?
I obviously don't see a toilet in, but I just remember the first one. There's the troll that dies in the bathroom, and he falls, and I don't know. Maybe not. I didn't know that. I don't feel like I needed to know that.
No one did. No one did.
Nobody did. Nobody did.
She found the need to tell us.
So yeah, so the game will do well no matter what. I think. I think it will be critically well received, though.
I'll
That's
put
thing.
money on this. Let's put money on this.
Like here, Avalanche Software is a great developer. Warner Brothers, like the Middle Earth games, were all great games. Like the Batman games are all great games. They don't seem to just throw their IP around for nothing. This has been under development for a long time, and people have been talking up, like, the people who are making this game are big Harry Potter fans, and they want to make this world. What I saw was surpassed my expectations, and from the dialogue I can see online, blew a lot of people away who weren't expecting much, and they were like, "Wow, this is very big for what they thought was just going to be another Harry Potter game." It seems quite big, and the rumors for this game have been around for years that it was going to be this big RPG that's really in depth and all this sort of stuff. So who knows? You might be surprised. I can say I will play this game 100%. Like I'm invested enough in the Harry Potter world to be interested in this game and to see the appeal of it. If there's nothing there story-wise that catches my interest, I'm not going to stay involved just so I can explore the castle, because I don't care. Like it's not it's not Hobbiton or anything like that. It's not that for me. But what is there could be interesting.
Why was this in a state of play?
Like it was revealed at a PlayStation State of Play as well originally.
Right.
PlayStation have the marketing rights for it. It's not an exclusive. It's on Xbox.
No,
it's on PC.
It's on everything. It's on Switch.
It's on Switch. What? It's crazy. Like this, and that just makes me like 100%. This game is gonna do numbers, man. Conan, you talking about bets? This game's gonna outsell Elden Ring.
Oh no, I know doubt.
Guarantee it.
My doubt is that it'll be well received critically.
It'll be swimming in 7s, 7 and 8s. Guarantee it.
The IGN will be like, terrible game, 9 out of 10.
Too much wands. One final note before we wrap up. I do just want to say that whatever your opinion is on the author of this world, don't, like, speaking with your wallet and not buying this game or talking about this game or anything like that only affects the developers. She has nothing to do with the game. So it feels kind of disingenuous to not support or talk about a game or cover a game because of your disagreements with somebody who wrote the books that this is based off of. It's like, I don't know. It's, yeah, just my 2 cents. Especially if you're owned by...
Wasn't worth that much, but go for it.
Especially if you're owned by Tencent. But anyway, that's all for this week. If you liked hearing us talk about games, you'll love hearing us talk about movies on our other podcast, The Good, The Bad, and The Worst podcast, where we review and rank movie trilogies. Our next one coming up is The Predator quadrilogy. They don't really continue on a storyline too much, but there's a Predator in all of them.
Spoiler for people? Jeez.
What was our last one? The last one was actually a special episode on the Batman, which
other reasons
we all loved. See, and yeah, follow us on social media, like and subscribe. You can find us on social media at Bonus XP Podcast or at Good Bad Worst Pod. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.